Glucofort realized that 1 out of 10 Americans are probably going to be determined to have type 2 diabetes? What was once considered as a condition that just creates in grown-ups more than 40 years old has in no time turned into a typical conclusion for teenagers, youthful grown-ups, and even kids. For those of you pondering, so what? It isn't not difficult to live with such a condition, as it has since been connected to expanded thirst and appetite, depletion, and obscured vision, just to give some examples. Without a doubt, there are physician-endorsed drugs for it, yet there must be alternate ways of speeding up beneficial outcomes, correct? According to our examination, an additional one measure, beside making changes to one's eating routine and exercise system, worth considering is all regular enhancements. As a rule, such arrangements have since a long time ago existed in the public arena and are just causing ripple effects lately. Will recorded use beat logical proof? The reason for this audit is to present an all-normal enhancement called Glucofort. What is Glucofort? Glucofort is a high-level glucose support equation that wipes out the main driver of type 2 diabetes. In this manner, people might perhaps carry on with a sound life that establishes glucose levels inside typical ranges and further developed glucose digestion. Likewise, overabundance fat that is ordinarily at the neck of a significant number of our essential organs will have disseminated, permitting people to liberate themselves from well-being suggestions. Glucofort is established on exclusive story that prompted a local area loaded up with well-being. 50-year-old Andrew Freeman is a rehearsing therapist with 20 years of involvement. At the point when he was educated regarding his sort 2 diabetes finding, he was unable to accept what he heard, particularly realizing how cautious he has been in regards to his well-being. With high portions of metformin and limitations forced left, right and focus, he chose to foster a suitable arrangement that is protected at this point powerful. Subsequent to going through months on research, Andrew professes to have found that diabetes switching secret concealed in Tibet. One thing prompted the following, and Andrew met Tibetan master Dr. Jun. How does Glucofort work? Glucofort works by addressing a specific particle that forces fat to detonate inside the blood while hardening the conduits simultaneously. Yet this fat source is likewise set off into assaulting the liver, pancreas, and the heart, all of which have direct connections to type 2 diabetes. What may this atom be? Incidentally, it is as a matter of fact ceramide. As clarified by Andrew, these unfamiliar mixtures power the fat cells to incorporate into the circulatory system. Thusly, they stop up imperative organs, beginning with the liver, moving towards the pancreas and getting done with the heart. Given that the pancreas is answerable for delivering insulin, a blockage from inside makes a huge impediment. This is obviously an issue since insulin is the chemical answerable for conveying declarations to substantial cells that glucose is accessible for utilization. To add to the last mentioned, when glucose isn't taken up by essential cells and organs, it stays in the circulation system with time, and henceforth, supporting glucose levels. When both the liver and heart are enduring an onslaught, as referenced over, the conduits wind up getting obstructed also. This leaves people with an expanded danger of creating heart-related infections and greasy livers. At last, Glucofort actuates that diabetes switching instrument, so that ceramides are flushed out of one's framework. This, as far as anyone knows, gets the job done to keep fat cells from going through the circulatory system and causing undesirable harms. With this key information, it becomes basic to survey how precisely these poisonous mixtures can be obliterated. The most ideal way, obviously, is by surveying the fixings list. What fixings are inside Glucofort? The fixings found inside Glucofort are a blend of roots, barks, plants, trees, and berries, which are all generally burned through as a tea in Tibet. Since the specific proportions can without much of a stretch shift with teas, this enhancement remembers every one of the accompanying elements for container structure. Guggle Mukul Myrrh, or regularly alluded to as Guggle, is a tree local to India. A lot of its therapeutic properties rests in the tree's gum, which, according to one source that zeroed in on logical discoveries, can instigate a decrease in fatty substance levels and cholesterol levels. Harsh melon. Unpleasant melon can be considered as a thorny and harsh vegetable that looks like a cucumber yet with no water content as such. Concerning its potential in bringing glucose levels inside typical reaches, one audit featured that a part liable for conveying substantial organs and cells with energy gets actuated upon the ingestion of unpleasant melon. Perceived as AMPK, or initiated protein kinase, upon actuation, it may assist with expanding fat oxidation and glucose resistance. Licorice root is a blooming plant whose root is considered as a choice to sugar and, somewhat, traditional medication. A review comprising of rodents that got 1 gram per kilogram body weight of licorice day by day for 60 days detailed an inversion in the unfavorable impacts of diabetes. Besides, it assisted with re-establishing the absolute cancer prevention agent limit of diabetic rodent kidneys, driving specialists to reason that licorice may have a likely helpful impact for diabetes because of its cell reinforcement and hyperglycemic properties. Glucofort final verdict. Yarrow is a blooming plant home to the Asteraceae species. It contains a critical wellspring of inulin, additionally alluded to as a prebiotic. When taking a gander at the impacts of inulin on type 2 diabetes in corpulent patients, one deliberate survey found 11 articles that met their models. Eventually, the group noticed that of the 11 examinations being scrutinized, just one had the option to demonstrate that it is useful for type 2 diabetic patients. All things considered, going against results were accounted for among type 2 diabetic and hefty patients. Subsequently, its general viability should be additionally contemplated to make solid cases. Glucofort berries look like blueberries fit as a fiddle and shaping. However, are bigger in nature. One potential justification behind remembering these berries for Glucofort could be its rich wellspring of cancer prevention agents, which are known to free the group of unfamiliar trespassers. One source revealed various investigations that have since demonstrated a decrease in glucose, cholesterol, and fatty substance levels in rodents with diabetes. While this is consoling, more grounded claims are generally made when human subjects are involved. Fortunately, starter results like these are incredible indicato.